acá. Para muchos, hace 3 meses nos encontramos acá también viendo el Demo Day de Corte 13. Así que para nosotros es una muy linda ocasión. Nuestra segunda corte está llegando a su final del programa de Fundamentos de Desarrollo de Software aquí en Holberton. Parece increíble, fue ayer que empezaron. Quiero agradecer que hoy nos acompañan Gabriel Rosman, directivo de Zona América, Mariano Olivera, directiva de la CUTI, Guillermo Dutra, miembro del directorio de INEFOP, varias empresas Hiring Partners que nos acompañaron en Holberton desde el inicio y amigos de la casa. Antes de comenzar, un poco con lo que es la presentación de los proyectos de hoy, le voy a pedir al señor Gabriel Rosman si puede subir al escenario y decir unas palabras, por favor.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Realmente un orgullo de ver tanta gente que ha pasado por una transición difícil de ser lo que eran, ahora se han reinventado como programadores y técnicos de formación de datos. Este va a ser un viaje largo, porque esto va a seguir desarrollándose y los que decidieron estudiar aquí van a estudiar toda su vida, porque las cosas van a cambiar rápidamente en los próximos años. Van a venir nuevas técnicas, nuevas metodologías, nuevos productos. Vamos a tener que estudiar. Dicen que los médicos son los que más estudian. Yo creo que no, vamos a hacer los de informática los que más tenemos que estudiar. Así que prepárense. Pero tiene una carrera brillante. Este país, estamos siempre diciendo, ¿cómo podemos salir de la pobreza en este país? Salir de la pobreza es crear más trabajos en tecnología. Porque hemos probado, portando a Estados Unidos y otros lados, somos muy buenos. La capacidad de los uruguayos realmente es superior a la de los otros países latinoamericanos. Lo sabemos porque exportamos más per cápita que cualquier otro país latinoamericano. Así que han elegido el camino correcto. Creo que lo van a disfrutar, porque es una profesión muy, pero muy linda. No me acuerdo ya cómo la empecé, pero debo haber empezado yo también. Pero quisiera felicitarlos porque Holberton no es fácil. Nadie regala nada en Holberton, hay que trabajarlo. Yo veo cómo trabajan hasta altas horas de la noche, veo cómo trabajan en grupos, veo cómo se esfuerzan en hablar inglés, veo cómo están siempre preocupados por estar al día con las cosas que hacen para estar dentro de Holberton. Y Holberton ha hecho una contribución muy grande de Uruguay, la seguirá haciendo. América está comprometido con las cortes que van a seguir, con la ayuda que ustedes, como los que han pasado la 14, van a apoyarlos. Así que muy contentos de verlos, muy bueno escucharlos y espero que tengan un poco de tiempo para oler las flores también, que es muy importante. Pero los felicito y espero que tengan muy buena carrera para todos. Felicitaciones.
Muchas gracias, Gabriel, por tus palabras. Hoy tenemos acá a los alumnos de Corte 14 de Holberton, nuestra segunda corte, que empezaron, parece mentira, parece que fue ayer, pero fue a fines de enero. Pasó muy rápido, sin duda para muchos de ellos. Y parte de la currícula de Holberton es hacer un proyecto final. Este proyecto final es un MVP, que tuvieron 6 semanas en total para realizarlo. Las 3 primeras para armar los equipos, pensar la idea, hacer las pruebas de concepto. 2 semanas propiamente dicha para desarrollar lo que van a ver hoy y 1 semana después para hacer la landing y preparar la presentación que hoy van a hacer frente a ustedes. Los tiempos fueron exigentes sin duda, fueron cortos, pero con muy buenos resultados del equipo de Corte 14. La presentación que van a escuchar hoy de cada equipo va a ser 8 minutos de presentación, va a ser en inglés, porque toda la currícula de Holberton fue en inglés, y después abrimos una instancia de preguntas para que ustedes les puedan hacer sobre el proyecto que acaban de presentar. Siéntanse libres para preguntar. Yo lo hablaba con varios de ustedes recién. De hecho, están esperando las preguntas y es una forma también de acompañarlos. Así que los invito a que pregunten. No tienen por qué preguntar como audiencia en inglés. Pueden hacerlo en español si quieren. El peso de hablar en inglés está más del lado de ellos que del lado de ustedes. Los invitamos a disfrutar de esta instancia. La misma va a estar siendo grabada por YouTube también y transmitiéndose en directo en este momento para los demás campus de la red de Holberton que puedan también alentar a los chicos de Uruguay y también para los que no nos pudieron acompañar hoy y nos puedan ver desde la casa en otro momento o en simultáneo mientras que lo estamos transmitiendo acá. Para comenzar entonces con el primer grupo, le voy a pedir por favor a Francisco Calixto, Rodrigo Briones y Gabriel Ferreira de ESPot que pasen al escenario. ESPot es un proyecto de Internet of Things basado en una maceta inteligente capaz de autoirrigarse dependiendo de la humedad en la tierra. El microcontrolador integrado a la maceta es el encargado de realizar las tareas y comunicarse con la base de datos, donde la información es guardada y luego exhibida en su página web.
We live in a world where there are self-driving cars, lawnmowers, and even vacuum cleaners. Why can't there be a much simpler device? A device capable of automating a task that is even more boring. We developed ESPot, a smart plant vase that knows when to water itself and is able to connect to Wi-Fi and interchange real-time information with a database. The plant vase, which comes with its own water tank, also has an electronic circuit integrated to it, composed by a soil humidity sensor, a water level sensor, a water pump, and the main component, the ESP8266 microcontroller, programmed in C++, capable of controlling and connecting all of the components I mentioned before. This electronic circuit is designed to be powered by a 5V micro USB cable, just like the cell phone chargers all of you have at your homes, as the plant is originally thought to be kept indoors. The way the system works is the humidity sensor is constantly reading the humidity of the soil. Once the ESP evaluates it is too dry, it then checks if there is water in the tank and turns the pump on. The amount of water that comes out is estimated regarding the actual humidity of the soil and the desired humidity that it wants to achieve, of course, which changes from plant to plant. These calculations took some testing and calibration of the instruments used, and although we didn't achieve 100% perfect results, we were able to find a result that fits our needs mostly. The updated information is then sent over to the database, where the backend takes good care of it.
The backend of our application relies heavily on Python, which has a perfect frameworks and libraries to fit our needs to develop an scalable and adaptable application. We use Flask as the core of our backend. And for the database, we use MySQL and SQL Alchemy, which is a Python library that converts the SQL tables into Python objects. For the API, also, we use Flask with special endpoints to exchange the data with the microcontroller, the database, and the web page, and give it more dynamism.
Okay, so for the front-end part of the application, we opt for a minimalist design, able to show all the relevant information that may be interesting to the user, but keeping things simple to visualize. We achieve this using HTML, CSS, JS, and the support of Bootstrap. Now, we will make a video demonstration of the put, begin watering, and updating the information. Okay, so as you can see here, the user can manage all of his pots. In your case, our pot or plant is the calanchoe, which has a specific humidity. Okay, so now if you see here, if you press the on button, you activate automatic mode, and the electronic components detect that it's time to irrigate, and the ESP send information to the web. Okay, so as you can see, the water tank level and the time of the last irrigation is updated. Also, the humidity went up gradually.
Do you mean like image recognition to the plant? Oh, okay. So like to check if the plant is healthy, and that's a really good question. Yeah, so actually to know how much water it needs, it's all we work for now, it's by the humidity, as you can see. For example, the plant you are seeing now, we did some research and found that around 65%, 70% of humidity of the soil would be the perfect percentage. That's why we didn't implement like by species, but by the soil humidity. And regarding the question about the image recognition, it is actually, I think it would be a really good project. It would involve some more advanced technologies like machine learning, which I hope I can learn someday and integrate to my projects. I sure can do. But for now, we didn't. It's a really good idea though, but we didn't integrate it. Thank you.
Por ahora no tenemos pensado comercializarlo. Sí le vemos futuro y puede ser que en algún futuro volvamos a retomarlo como un proyecto a vender, básicamente. Pero necesita mucho más estudio, ya que no realizamos los dichos estudios necesarios para que, por ejemplo, abarque más de 5 plantas. Tiene lo necesario como para que tenga la diversidad de plantas y las plantas específicas que nosotros vimos, con su humedad y todo eso. Pero no nos vamos a enfocar 100% en el proyecto el día de mañana, por ejemplo, para intentar venderlo.
Agrego un poquito a la pregunta. Creo que por ahora nos enfocamos más en un modelo que sirva como MVP, que cumpla su función. Y como él decía, no le dimos mucho tiempo al business planning que se necesitaría, como pensar, para mí tendría que repensar muchísimo toda la cosa. Y la verdad que no lo pensamos, lo vimos más por el lado técnico, porque sabíamos que si lo miramos desde el lado de un negocio, íbamos a dejar de hacer un montón de cosas que nos sirvieron a nosotros hacer, aunque no sean lo mejor para un producto. Actually, some of these microcontrollers come with a Wi-Fi module that is called the LoRa Wi-Fi, and it's capable of like connecting to networks from I think 3 kilometers or more a distance. So 3G isn't actually necessary, although I think it probably could be achieved. But the people that manufacture these controllers. Of course, that must be a really recurring question, and they developed this Wi-Fi, LoRa Wi-Fi, which has a really long, it can get to a really long distance. But this one was designed from the beginning to sit indoors. So, sorry, do you mean like which components decide when the plant is irrigated? We have actually three main components. We have three main components. We have the water level sensor, which is a sensor that floats and sends a digital output, and you can know if the water level is up or down. That component actually, when the microcontroller is reading the sensor readings, if the water is low, it doesn't even care and doesn't even try to irrigate, because it knows there is no water. Then we have the humidity sensor, which will mark between 0 and 100%. And for our case, we have it programmed in this ESP that below 20% is like an irrigation zone. And when the soil humidity sensor detects it is below that zone and there is water, it irrigates. And the third component is the button, the gray button that turned green, that it is a variable in the database, which is a Boolean. I'm sorry if I'm too technical. It is a true or false variable, and the ESP is constantly reading that variable in the database, and if that it only irrigates if that variable is true. Thank you. So I'm going to tell you the whole story. I know you understand the more technical answer, but I'll try to make it understandable for everyone. So the pump that dispenses the water, it dispenses a certain amount of milliliters per second. Knowing that value, we can then estimate how much seconds we need to turn on the pump, which in code would be like a wait, a delay. And that's how we manage the pump. And I think you were connecting it to the percentage before. And the way we actually estimated how many seconds we would need to turn on the pump if it were 15-20% in order to achieve the expected 70%, and we took that value as an example.
Saliendo de IoT, nos vamos al mundo de los videojuegos ahora. ATCAS es un proyecto desarrollado por Daniel Millán y Tomás Martínez. Es un videojuego que apunta a generar una experiencia cooperativa llena de acción y humor. Así que les pido, chicos, por favor, si pueden ir bajando al escenario.
Three weeks ago, we wouldn't have imagined that we will be able to make something like this. you may have noticed by now, but we are the developers of Hired Guns, the game you just saw. So a little bit more about the game itself. Okay, what's the idea behind Hired Guns? So it's an online cooperative FPS experience with a little bit of roguelike. The objective is that both players need to reach the end of the level, going through a bunch of rooms, cleaning enemies. Okay, knowledge is the key. Knowledge about the universe and the mechanics is the key value for a successful match. And it has also a little bit of cynical humor.
So you might ask, why a game? This decision was a combination from a previous desire of making a game and the thrill of starting something from scratch without previous knowledge. Let's talk about the technologies used. First is Unity. Unity is a game engine. We choose it because the quality of the documentation and the support of the community. The next is Photon. Photon is a Unity framework for easy online implementation. After some research, we found out the Photon adjusted best to our necessities because this is a peer-to-peer connection. Finally, Blender. Blender is a 3D modeling software. We use it. It was a best for beginners. It's free, and the support of the community.
Okay, so more about designing our game. In the design, you need to mix or sync a bunch of different things in order to develop a game. For our game, we needed to always keep in mind the vision that we have for this game. So for the theme, the core mechanics, and the art design, we implemented a couple of brainstorms in order to throw some ideas. And to choose these ideas, we always had in mind the time available and the game design that we set it from the beginning. So now let's see a little bit more about the 3D models and designs that we use for this game. You will notice that the shapes and the overall design, it's a little simpler. That's why. That's because we aimed for a more simplistic and optimized design. These are the players. Here on screen, you will see 6 of the 9 animations that are available, and 2 other more poses. Blue is the first player, red is the second player. Okay, we have 2 types of enemies in this game. This one is the first one and is the basic enemy. It has 3 variants. It can be the regular size, a small size that it comes in pack of 5 or 6 enemies that swarms the player, and the bigger one or the most dangerous, that is the mini-boss. And we have the turrets. The turrets are stable, static enemies that cannot be destroyed. They need to be turned off with the turret switch. Now, the props. All the 3D models and designs are made by us. Well, almost everyone, almost all. The guns and the grenade are taken from a 3D model, a free 3D model library. The rooms. We needed to ask, currently, we needed to be currently asking questions like, what's the player going to think? What's the player going to do next? So in order to do successful rooms, we needed to be constantly checking this. This is the overall world design view from the top. We come with 4 rooms, 1 store, and 1 lobby. The UI and HUD, user interface and HUD. This is the main menu of the game. This is the lobby of the, let's say, before starting the match. And this is the user interface inside the game, the HUD.
Okay, let's talk about what's under the hood, the code. Developing a video game presented us with new challenge. In this case, we had to interact with vector, port, physics, and more. So we started programming the player. First, we set the node that will be the player mechanics. They are the HUD, the inventory, the movement, and the animations. All these taking into account the synchronization between clients. Now we continue with the items. For this, we made these three of item inherent to the class. The children from items are gun controller, medikit controller, grenade controller, bullet controller, and from gun controller, there is all these type of shots.
Now, the artificial intelligence. We found out that syncing all the information from the host to the guest was kind of troublesome. There were too many packages coming up and going, and this saturated the connection. So what did we do? Instead of each machine calculate everything and keep passing information, we simplify it, making only synchronize the target. And in this way, we avoided that the enemy will look buggy and broken. So, further steps. We had a really, really good time developing this game, and we plan to keep developing it. So, the current game, the current MVP, only has 1 level. We plan to add 4 more for a total of 5 levels. In the end of each level, we plan to add a boss fight that is pulled from a pool of different bosses that are going to be randomized at the start of each match. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous. And the procedural levels. Since our game aims for replayability, we want each match to feel a different experience. That's why we plan to add an algorithm that it's capable of create a different level each time the player launches the game. So both players can have a different experience. And much more. We have more guns, we plan to add abilities, and so on and so on. So if you really like this game and want to give it a try, you can download it from our landing page. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. Thank you very much. We have thought about it, but for the MVP current state, we didn't implement it because of the tight timeline. But it's absolutely a good idea. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, well, we had a little issue that is that you never see the packages come and go. So the first sections were played very good. There was any issue, but the further the match lasts, you will see a larger and larger desynchronization, desync. So it's definitely way different to test a video game than a software, at least the ones that I've tested already. For our game, we had a checklist that we were going through each development, but of course there were always things that needed a little extra investigation, extra testing. Thanks. Well, we really like the idea of like the dream of releasing it on Steam. So that's where we are aiming. And for the release, we are planning to go for a little trick that some companies, cooperative companies, are doing, that with the buy of one game, your friend receives a copy too, so both players can play. Yeah, it's, of course, yeah. You can connect and play. The footage, it's recorded lively and with 2 players. It only uses internet connection. I don't think it supports LAN for the time being. Sorry? We haven't taken it into consideration for the current release. Yeah. I guess it's because it was our game, but it was kind of painful to see how things broke and weren't functioning as we planned to. But it's a great experience, and we had a lot of fun, like trying to break the game multiple times. That's a really good question. Okay, designing the whole idea, I think it's one of the heaviest part, because you can have a good programmer and a good designer, a good 3D modeler, but if you aren't able to hold and like mix everything together in a way that it doesn't feel like I don't know how to say it in English, que se junte todo, you will not achieve the game quality that you are aiming for. So I would say it's game design.
Siguiendo con la variedad de los proyectos, le pido por favor a Ezequiel Martínez, Gabriel Prochnow y Miguel Pacheco que vayan bajando, así nos cuentan un poquito más sobre Match Game. Match Game es una aplicación social diseñada para permitir a los jugadores de videojuegos la posibilidad de conectar con otros jugadores. Está pensada para aquel jugador que quiere encontrar personas o nuevos amigos para compartir su videojuego. Adelante.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am Ezequiel Martinez. To my right is Gabriel Prochnow, and to my left is Miguel Pacheco. I took the role of the project manager. He's the backend developer, and he's the frontend. So, we are going to show here what we have been working on for the past 2 weeks. Let's start by the idea of the application. From the get-go, we knew that we wanted to do something related to a social experience, a social media app, or something like that. And after some discussion and some brainstorming, we saw that the gaming community is increasingly growing, and ever since the pandemic, it's so huge. And we think it was a good opportunity to bring both worlds match the worlds together. So we wanted to make a more personalized social experience for gamers and for people who play games, to match with other people and play with new friends. So, sorry about that. For the objectives and goals, we wanted to learn a new technology, that's for sure. We decided that it was going to be from the front-end part, a front-end framework, Vue.js. The two main goals for our project were creating an application from scratch. And from scratch, we mean an API, a backend, a frontend, the database, the object relational mapper, everything thought by us, and the algorithms and everything. And the second main goal would be to have everything bundled and keep it running, a working prototype running in a server. So, of course, doing it also in a very short span of time. Now.
Well, for the technologies, we decided that in the front end, we were going to use JavaScript and Vue.js as the main framework, as Ese already said. We use Beautify for the design and Axios for the connectivity with the API. In the backend, we use Python to create the API with Flask and SQL Alchemy for the ORM, and MySQL for the database. The main architecture of the system, we decided to use two servers because our servers were very low end. So if we try to use both services in one server, it sometimes crashes. And we decided to use the first server for the web server with the code base. And when the user gets the page and everything loaded, the page will send the request through Axios to the API in the second server to get the data to populate the page. And from the database, we try to keep things as simple as possible with only 3 tables for the objects and 4 relational tables to connect everything together and keep it running.
Okay, so for the front end, we decide to create a minimalistic front end in order to achieve a great user experience. Also, as you can see here, this is our demo. Here's the login. Also can be used as a sign up. We have both sign up and login. And after login or sign up, we need to, if we sign up, we need to go to the profile page in order to add the video games that we play, and also the social media and a little biography about that. So we can see here, we have the Find tab, where we can see all the matches that we have based on the games that we had previously. And also, after send a request to a user to match, we have from the other user will receive that match, that request, and if the user accepts the request, there will we have a match that lately we can see it on the matches tab. So if you have any questions, first of all, thanks for being here, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Very good question, and thank you. And the matches are the algorithm that makes the matches is working in the API. And when a user gives a like, the API checks if there is a really a like in the other way from the other user to yourself. And if that's the case, it deletes both likes and then adds that as matches. So in that moment, as you can see in the last page, it gives an alert that it is a match, and you can see the data and everything from the other user in your match table. And if I'm sorry, I didn't understand it. I don't know. It only matches players. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you get in the profile page and you add the game you play, and it gives you all the players that played the same games as you, or at least one game that you play. So you can see all the players and their videos and decide which one you want to play with and which one you want to ignore. No, no, it doesn't, because the likes are saved in the database, so it's not needed to be live the other person to receive the match.
Gracias por la pregunta. Yo creo que es una combinación de muchas cosas, ¿no? O sea, primero que nada estuvimos aplicando todo lo que vinimos aprendiendo durante el transcurso de lo que fue el programa Foundation de Holberton, por lo que el trabajo en equipo fue algo que se destacó mucho, y a la vez el llegar a un consenso en la idea también es algo de lo que sacamos mucho provecho y mucha experiencia, tanto por cosas que hicimos bien como por cosas que hicimos mal. Aprendimos de ambas. Y bueno, habilidades blandas, yo creo que si tuviera que elegir una sería comunicación.
Okay. Thank you for the question. But now works as a web application that can be used on Android, on mobile devices, on the browser, and also on desktop. We basically made our great achievement on the mobile part. Also, desktop works very well, and it is expected. We are not sure about made a native application, but we will be taking that into consideration in the future.
That's something that we discussed about, but we're still discussing it. We're still evaluating it. Yeah, I mean, I think it has room to improve. Also, we wanted to make it the way we did it was so we can use it to build upon it. And also, I think the roadmap and to which things to improve and which things to add are very clear, almost before hitting like a dead end or at the street. There are sorry. We know what to improve, and we also have the front end part and the back end is something that we can build upon. So maybe it's a possibility, but I don't know. From my personal, I can't talk for them, but for me, I will focus on another things. Maybe I will grab it in my free time for sure, maybe. But I can't lie. I want to start working. So yeah.
Thank you for the question. I don't know if you are thinking explicitly about the backend and the database, or what, or in general. Um,
I think that, to be honest, there were a little bit of everything. Like, for example, we tried many things and we planned on a lot of things that we took out of scope because we wanted, there are other functionalities that needed to be addressed and polished first. But if I have to say one, it will be mostly like the global integration of the front end with our backend, that we did it like from scratch the way we knew. I don't know if that answers your question.
Ahora nos vamos un ratito de los videojuegos y nos vamos para otra área totalmente distinta. Diego Susbiela, Maximiliano Pan, Santiago Borgia y Agustino Tegui son los creadores de ATCAS, Air Traffic Controller Assistance Software. Es un software de aplicación web que busca brindar apoyo a los controladores aéreos de aeropuertos de mediana escala, brindando información y recomendaciones en tiempo real que permitan reducir el riesgo del factor humano y prever posibles colisiones.
According to the United States Department of Transportation, over the last 5 years, pilots have reported more than 1,600 near mid-air collisions. From these, 214 were collision avoidance situations by chance, rather than from an act of the pilot. This is unbelievable. It is estimated that nearly 45,000 lives were threatened. It is a big number to be left at random. Based on this, we started an investigation where we took into account the expertise provided by air traffic controllers, pilots, international aviation manuals, and based on this, we decided to create ATCAS. ATCAS stands for Air Traffic Controller Assistant Software. This consists of a web application program which provides support to air traffic controllers of mid-scale airports by giving real-time information and recommendations in order to reduce human risk and prevent possible mid-air collisions. This fantastic and ambitious idea wouldn't be possible without this amazing team, which is composed of Maximiliano Pan as server and database administrator, Diego Subiela as backend developer, Santiago Borgia as front-end developer, and who is now addressing you, Agustino Tegui, as a project manager. One of the pillars this system has is the algorithms which process all the data we receive from different APIs.
Our main concern was to detect collisions between airplanes with anticipation and precision, so as to avoid them. For this, we needed to know where planes were going to be ahead of time. Here's when we stumbled with the Harbenstein formula. It appears pretty scary if you see it right now, but it's actually pretty easy to use. Once we have the track, the position, and the speed of an airplane, we can know where it's going to be ahead of time. We do this, and we can know if it's going to collide with other airplanes. But a collision, it's not exactly as cars who collide on a road, and they get to each other and they crash physically. A collision with aircraft gets when you get too close to each other. This is because of the turbulence area and the spins it left with the airplane. Once we could determine this area around the aircraft, we just needed to know when the plane at a certain time it's going to be and calculate if any aircraft in the vicinity is going to be inside this area. For this, now we needed to host this somewhere. This is how we decided to do so.
The entire ATCAS architecture is hosted on Amazon Web Services. We decided to use AWS for its easy auto-scaling and security features. Our application is based on 3 services that run simultaneously, each one in its own AC2 instance. The first service runs in the data server and is in charge of collecting real-time information about live flights from different third-party APIs, carrying out the pre-processing of this input to save it in the database. The second service runs in the app server, and here is where all the algorithms Diego just talked about comes into action. Takes the information in the database as input, and after performing some calculations, generates a JSON file that is constantly updated and can be accessed through our API. And the web server that manages all the content, including the static files, and also loads the information in the backend to show dynamic content in the application.
In order for ATCAS to work, we use a combination of several technologies. For the general development of the program, we coded in Python, which allows us to code under an object-oriented paradigm. For storing our data, we use MySQL as a relational database, and PyMySQL as a module to connect the backend with our data. For the API, we use Flask framework. In terms of architecture, we use Nginx as our web server and Unicore as our application server, all hosted in Amazon Web Services for its power and scalability. For version control, we use GitHub, each part working on a different branch and then merging it all together in the main branch. For the organization of the whole project, we use Jira, a very important aspect in order to know each part of the project and establishing deadlines to complete. ATCAS web application frontend is built in HTML with CSS and the Bootstrap framework, combined with JavaScript to give it the dynamic it needs. We needed a map that clean and has the information we needed to show where we needed to show. So we decided to learn Leaf, which is a leading JavaScript library that is designed for performance and usability. This allows us to have our own map showing the markers updated in real time, given by our own API. All of this combines gives us a full responsive and intuitive web applications for the air traffic controllers to see the planes in real time in the map, showing the possible collisions and alerts, in the right panel and in the map itself. Now, we are going to show you a quick demonstration of ATCAS Run.
On the map, you can see online all the flights with their information which are in the current airspace. For today, we have simulated a mid-air collision between two planes, and a collision alert will appear below over there to the air traffic controller, and he will hold the situation, and after a couple of seconds, each plane should move to the new altitude in order to avoid collision. So, to conclude, we have developed, we are proud of the product we have developed, and we hope ATCAS could help air traffic controllers on such an important job they have. So thanks for listening. Please, if you have any further questions, please address them. Yes. Thanks for the question. At the beginning, we gather with air traffic controllers, also with pilots, in order to know their feedback. But also we look after the ICAO manual 444 as well.
Yeah, for this MVP, we use two different APIs. Both of them are paid APIs, and the first give us information on real time of flights in the airspace, the position and basic information like the ICAO code for identify the flight. And the other one we use for getting information, like, for example, the departure time and where the flight goes, and all this type of information that is more like related with the airport and not the position itself. I don't know if that responds to your question.
Yes.
You mean if there's any software like similar to our software? Oh, by the standards of aviation, you mean? Like, yeah. They are not actually right now validated, per se. Like, nobody actually saw the code and validate them themselves. But we based all our knowledge and things on the interviews we had with air traffic controllers, pilots, and actually the manual, we used the 4444 manual for air traffic controllers. So, of course, if you want to use this tomorrow, for example, you will have to get certifications because of safety measures. But yeah, we are compliant with all the safety measures with them. I don't know if that was the question. Sort of.
Well, right now we are not going to do it 100%, but we love the experience. We know we should get validated by an air traffic controller, and it has much more work to do because we planned more features for it, a lot more. In the beginning, that's why Agustin said it was an ambitious idea. It was much ambitious than it is right now. So if we continue working on it, we will have to work a lot.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add is that not only we wanted, in some intent, to continue developing this, but for this, we of course we need the certifications and such. We need to talk with actual, moreover, pilots and have like working them with us, not only questioning and interviews. We actually need more knowledge and about the safety, the more procedures and such that we didn't really have the time or really propose it because it was not the goal to make something that actually is going to be implemented in a tower like tomorrow. But yeah, it went through our heads, so yeah. I mean, when we first talked with an air traffic controller, he was actually excited by the idea because maybe for bigger airports, first we were targeting medium to low airports, right? Size airports. He told us that in bigger airports, they had some things automated with procedures and such, but here they didn't have those, not only because they are really expensive, but because they are not needed. Here you don't have the amount of traffic to manage in a short period of time that you actually need these procedures, and they actually are bad for them because they make you take some routes that you wouldn't take anyway. So just to have them like filter. So yeah, when we talked with one of the air traffic controllers, he was really hyped about the idea. The other one, he liked it, but I wanted to remark that the first one was really hyped, so yeah.
Another thing to add to that is that our plan is also to show it in a friendly way for air traffic controllers. If you see the workspace, it's like sometimes chaotic. So putting it in a web application and easy to use, maybe it's a plus for the purpose.
Muchas gracias. Y ahora sí vamos al último grupo de la tarde. Raimundo Galino, Rodolfo Delgado, Diego Varela, Hernán Montenegro son los creadores de Push 01. Push 01 es una experiencia de juego creada tanto para gamers como para no gamers que buscan compartir momentos y hacerlos especiales. Diseñado y desarrollado cuidadosamente para crear una jugabilidad intuitiva que se adapte a todos los jugadores.
Have you ever felt excluded for not knowing or not having the experience in a game your friends are playing? Well, me too. Push-Up 1 is a local multiplayer party game designed to give each player the same experience. To achieve this, we follow this development path, but it also will guide you as a for this whole presentation. In the mechanics, by my right, we have Hernán Montenegro. In the game logic, by my left, we have Diego Varela. In testing, Rodolfo Delgado. And who is speaking in graphics, sounds, and game design, but also I was really lucky to be the project manager of this awesome team. We begin the process thinking it as a whole experience. We wanted to give the player the same feelings that we want to get when we are playing a game like this. We started the process by creating a game design document. We wanted to start with a solid foundations for a later development. We wanted to create an environment where no matter the age or the gaming experience, every player feels welcome. To achieve this goal, we needed to create simple mechanics with easy controls and many other stuff that create the game more unique in every run. For us, this is ambitious, but we had in mind many other things that we want to develop. But today, we are really happy to present you this first milestone.
Technologies chosen for this project were Unity as a game engine and C# as the programming language because Unity works with it. The principal reason for choosing Unity is because it affords all the flexibility we need to create almost any game project. In the computer graphics aspect, we decided to use Blender for 3D modeling and animating, Substance Painter for texturing, HLSL and Shader Lab for create shaders and visual effects, and Adobe Photoshop for additional help. And in the audio, we decided to use Logic Pro X and Audacity. But more technical about the implementation of the mechanics, we decided to choose an object system design pattern. In a nutshell, it consists of all players having its own player event that has all the events a player needs. This allows us to append different behaviors from other systems without a really correlation between them, without any problem. And in this practical example, the HUD should listen when a player pushes for decreasing its stamina, and should listen also when the player recovers to increase it. About the power-ups that make the game very random and chaotic, we decided to implement an object-oriented programming paradigm, called inheritance. In simple words, all pickups derive from a base pickup class. That class has all the common definitions all pickups should have, only differentiating between each other for its behavior. This reduces the error range and the debug times. And for the pickup dropper, it should pick one pickup randomly from the pool and spawn it using the object pooling design pattern, always taking into account the mat bounce because it will fall down during the match time.
In a game, there is not all about mechanics. Also, it's needed a game logic to connect all small little pieces and make possible that those interact with each other. This design is thought taking into account the design of the game. At the beginning, the players see the main menu and press the push button to start the game. Then the camera turns into the lobby scene. This lobby scene is implemented following the design guidelines. The idea is to give the player the experience of being immersed in the game before to start a match. We give the ability to practice all essential mechanics to the player before start this match. When a player presses the ready button, his own state and light indicator changes. When our players are ready, they are teleported to the game scene. To avoid the necessary steps to restart the match, we create at this point a system. When only one player stands on the platform, automatically start a countdown to restart the match. On the other hand, if any button is pressed, all players are redirected to the lobby to add another player, to start another match, or simply to go back to the main menu. As we know, it's not all about mechanics and logic. Also, it's needed graphics and sound design to give it life to the game.
To give the player the proper experience that we were looking for, we decided to create all graphics by scratch. Models and animations were needed to give the mechanics life, but also to follow all the entire design. We dived into the vast world of shaders and visual effects to create the proper visual experience that we were looking for, but also to give the player some feedback. But it wasn't until we added the sound effects that our game was brought to life and was actually fun to play. Adding all these things together created the feel that our game was asking for, but now it was time to test it.
To secure the quality of that we want to show in our game, it will really need to pass through a testing stage. It was quite vital to check the user experience, the gameplay, and the graphics. The key of our game, it was the user experience. We want to game that make easy to play, give you a fun experience, and a friendly HUD, friendly interface. In the gameplay, there is not only the movement and the mechanics, but also it needs to be feel for the player more fluid. In the graphics, it's need to take about all points that I mentioned before, and more things that make the player be comfortable at the time to play. But the question is, how was it tested? Well, with our team, we designed a methodology to test every single app. To start, we define a checklist. Run a test of the release, and if an error was found, we document everything about the error, and if it is possible, find the solution that error, try to write over that. And again, if it's everything right on the release, it will be after the sorry. If everything is right, the release can be implemented to the game. We are really proud of our game. It was a very exciting journey that we have. So it's your time to test. We invite you to all to play the game upstairs after this event. So feel free to ask any question. Thank you so much for that.
Actually, it was a yes. Actually, the idea appears when I was in a party with my friends, and it was kind of a party in a COVID context. So the party was more look like a sofa, a TV, and a Nintendo Switch, and we all the night we spent. I think we spent like $20 looking for a game that suits everyone and everyone wanted to play and had the experience actually to play. So instantly the idea popped up to me and I say, why do I need to have experience to play this kind of games? They are party games. They are meant to be fun and have and be a shared experience. So the main concept of our game started right there, in that point. We want to build the experience for everyone. And that was the core concept for us to start building up from there. That answers your question. But you are not the first person that tells us. Yes. Actually, one of the other concepts of the game is to create the randomness in every match, to not get bored. Besides, it's actually only one level. One of the things that we want to add is to give the player, when it's in the lobby, the ability to choose what pickups will drop in the game. So when you're in the lobby, you kind of can design what will be like your match when you hit the ready button. That thing, but also many other things like creating a more interactive lobby. Actually, we have a lobby that, as we already said, is interactive. The mechanics, you can already test the mechanics of the game by being in the lobby with your friends and actually pressing the ready button, but we want to add more to that concept. We want to build upside the things that we have today, and the concepts we built in the first step in the design document.
I would like to add something to that question, and is that we decided firstly a lot more of pickups that was I don't know, descartados because of the time and the time we had to create the project. We had one, but it was really complex, so we decided to choose another time for that. And something that we would like to do also with that pickup picker is that our properly settings menu, because I'm really anxious because not having that. But I don't know. It was a really short time, so we should know what things to do, and we should decide when things came and when things don't leave. And that's it. It was an odyssey. I will not lie. Physics are complex. That's why we decided also to not doing that in multiplayer, because we discovered also that doing a physics multiplayer game was harder than we think. So we decided to reduce the scope and do it locally. That we discovered also that wasn't really painful for the concept idea of the game. But more precisely of how we managed to do all that stuff, it was with all objects and add forces and vectors and, I don't know, speeds, magnitudes. And I don't know if that answers your question, sorry.
I think that also it was a lot of testing, because we needed to create the experience that we are looking for. We needed to every player be able to push and to do the same things that a player that have played the game, I don't know, 3 weeks. And that was a lot of testing, but I'm sure Rodolfo can explain a bit more about that.
It was hard because it's it was hard testing because taking account that Hernan said before, in the case of the networking, broke all the game. bug that they made in the server. And we have, with the testing, thanks for the testing, we have to implement a few times, several times, the physics of the game. I helped Hernan to in the part of the mathematics because I like the mathematics. That's
Thank you for your question. I think that the lesson that we all here learned was the importance of communication when we are working in a team. Actually, it's not that big, but it is quite big. And managing the time and every area of each part of the team was quite of a challenge. But we achieved that goal by using a lot of Trello and studying Scrum and applying it in the short period of time that we have. I'm sure that we achieved the goal that we proposed in the first place, and also we learned a lot along the process about communicating and teamwork. Yeah. Well, actually, it's a good question, but we really really ensure that the way that if you press that one button and the mechanic is triggered, I'm going to explain this. Is more a technical part, but when you push, it's an aimbot that helps you aim to the player that is next. So, of course, we don't have like tested. I don't know. I don't have my mother tested the game, if that is your question. But but I'm sure that we have done everything that we can to create the mechanic easy to learn, and as I already said, with simple controls. You only need to press one button to do one thing. Good question. Yes. Actually, if we wanted to do that, not only we needed to redesign some of the architectural aspects of the game, but also we need to redesign all the graphic area, because actually the render pipeline that we use in Unity for this project is not supported for mobile platforms, and also I won't enter in technical stuff, but the shaders and visual effects don't work in mobile devices, actually. We can do that, but it will be an additional work, and for this milestone, we wanted to get working properly in one platform. Thank you for your question.
Muchas gracias. Vieron que 5 grupos súper heterogéneos, ¿no? Desde la idea, desde cómo lo fueron presentando. Vieron, como les decía al principio, 6 semanas en total para hacer su MVP, de las cuales 2 fueran de desarrollo propiamente dicho. Las primeras 3 fue de pensar la idea, buscar referentes, hacer benchmark, averiguar. Con lo cual fue sin duda un desafío para todos ellos, ¿no? Porque era como la primera vez que se enfrentaban a un proyecto donde tenían que lograr desde cero, crear todo. Y justo Corte 14, que son los que presentaron hoy, tienen 20 y poquitos años. Con lo cual, quiero pedirles un aplauso para todos ellos por el desafío que implica no solo esto, no solo por lo que lograron con sus proyectos, sino también por pararse acá en este escenario que un poquito de miedo mete y presentar frente a ustedes, que bastante más miedo imponen también por ser la industria, como es esperable. Con lo cual, felicitaciones a todos los chicos de Corte 14, cómo presentaron. La verdad que ahora pueden estar más tranquilos, ya lo veo en las caras, que están aflojando un poquito más, así que ahora disfruten del éxito que lograron. Le voy a pedir, sí, para cerrar, a Mariano Olivera, miembro del directorio de la CUTI, que nos regale unas palabras.
Primero que nada, felicitaciones a todos. La verdad, como decía Inés, es impresionante que en tan pocas semanas llegaron a 5 ideas, 5 proyectos, que la verdad espectaculares. 3 de entretenimiento, muy buenos. Uno para salvar vidas, que me pareció buenísimo, y otro para resolver un problema que es regar plantas, que a quien no le pasa, que no sabe cuánto regar, y a mí, por ejemplo, se me mueren todas. Así que espectacular. Ustedes ahora ya, bueno, forman parte de la industria, no sé si todos saben un poco de lo que es la industria en Uruguay. Ya forman parte de la industria del mundo y de Uruguay, ¿no? Pero en Uruguay hay más de 390 empresas de tecnología, varias de ellas acá. Hay más de 15.000 personas trabajando. Exportamos a 52 mercados, de los cuales el primero es Estados Unidos, que se lleva el 70%, y el segundo es Reino Unido. O sea que todo lo que hicieron y las clases también, que es todo en inglés y que practican en inglés, les va a venir espectacular. Facturamos en la industria más de 1.900 millones de dólares, exportamos 900 millones, o sea que es un número muy grande. Tenemos un pequeño temita de que necesitamos más o menos entre 1.000 y 2.000 personas nuevas que se integran a la industria por año, así que ustedes, ahora que se incorporan a la industria, van a cumplir un poquito ese granito de arena. Como decían por ahí, ahora ya van a empezar a trabajar, ya son parte de la industria, hay varias empresas acá que seguro echaron a varios, así que van a seguir aprendiendo, como es uno de los lemas de Holberton, van a seguir aprendiendo haciendo, pero sigan estudiando, sigan profesionalizándose, que es un poco la industria, es muy cambiante, las tecnologías cambian, así que sigan estudiando. Y bueno, y como les dejo como una meta ahí, que es mucha energía, muchas ganas de seguir y de aprender, transmítanlas a los demás para que se unan más personas, que es lo que necesitamos. Así que éxitos y lo mejor está por venir. Felicitaciones.
Muchas gracias, Mariane. Ahora sí los invitamos a todos a compartir un café afuera en el foyer, a probar los videojuegos, que ya bien los han invitado, que están disponibles en el Celebra Hall, como bien presentaron, y a charlar y conocer un poquito más a nuestro hall. Muchas gracias a todos por venir.